So it looks like the New Mutants is sticking to its August 28th release date, and therefore I'm going to continue with my X-Men series, watching and reviewing each and individual movie from the X-Men franchise in release date order up until the New Mutants, where I will do a ranking afterwards. And today's review is going to be on one of the most controversial X-Men movies, which is X-Men The Last Stand. So essentially what X-Men The Last Stand is about, it's the third movie in the X-Men series. It was planned to be the end of a trilogy, and it follows the human government that have developed a cure for the mutants, which could get rid of their powers. Jean Grey turns out to be alive. No spoiler, by the way, as it's in the official synopsis and it is in the trailer. But yeah, but she's not herself. She becomes a darker, uncontrollable persona called the Phoenix, who then does ally with Magneto, which escalates an all-out mutant war. But without further ado, let's get into the pros. So in the previous two X-Men movies, I've always criticized the amount of growth Storm has as a character. She just seems there for dialogue and for her powers. You don't know too much about her, but we get a better look at her this movie, which is quite good. We get to understand her more, how she is quite stressed with having to be one of the main people in charge and isn't entirely sure what to do and isn't appreciated for what they're doing. So it is nice to see Storm get some of the spotlight. Still sticking with the pros, I also found the mutant cure plot quite interesting. Some mutants find it very disrespectful to get rid of their gifts, as they would call it. Some, like Rogue for example, want to get rid of it. She can't touch someone without nearly killing them. So just things like that where it's like, take it or leave it. It's all her choice. Makes for interesting things to play out. Mostly in the last about half an hour is when all the cool action comes in. It's pretty deprived of action, but it's all leading up to that scene. The action was good, was cool, but yeah, there just isn't too much of it. So as established in the previous films, there's been the discrimination from the humans towards the mutants, and Kelsey Grammer coming in as Beast, he is that thin line of peace between the mutants and the humans, and I thought he was very well suited to this character. Very calm, but then also ready to fight for what he believes in. This film also follows Magneto, who we haven't seen as much from. We get to see him develop a bit. Despite him having this huge big plan, which some things he regrets later on in the movie, we can also see that he still has respect for his good friend Professor X, who is on the other side of the war. So he still it's just nice to see that respect, and he still has a heart. As I said, this was the close to the original trilogy, so we're expecting some huge stakes. And on paper the stakes are pretty big, but in terms of how everything's mashed together, there's just too many plot lines. The tones are uneven. There's a plotline about forming the Brotherhood, there's the mutant cure, there's this stupid love triangle mixed in with it, and then there's also the Phoenix plot, which has no justice done to it. Watching this many years ago, I was like, if they wanted to nail this Phoenix storyline, they should dedicate a movie to it. And I wouldn't say I was wrong, it's just when they actually did do that, they didn't do it right. Such a big storyline, it can't just be a side plot, and even when it is here as a side plot, it's highly undeveloped. Jean does give off this big power feeling, how she can tear that bridge apart, Alcatraz. In truth, when she's in battle, we just see her stand there and float, and then things move around. She has telekinesis, but we'd have seen more effort from her, I guess. She just seemed too relaxed doing it herself. And as I said about the tone, it just feels so different to the other ones. X-Men and X2 felt so unique, especially for the time they were made. This movie just felt like it jumped to a normal comic book movie. It didn't feel too attached to the other ones. I didn't care for anyone really in this movie, I'm going to be honest. Previous two movies built up these very likable characters, and then they're just very generic in this movie. And there are some huge moments which should be very impactful to us, but they're just kind of shrugged off by the characters just because they want to keep this movie moving, as they didn't have much time. Keeping away from the trend of comic book movies, they drive away from the campiness. There was maybe one or two lines there, but I thought it would be gone by now, but it returns, mainly with the Juggernaut. Such an embarrassing line and an embarrassing look for the character, which kind of just sums up this movie. Bryan Singer, who had directed the first two movies, had created a certain tone for these movies, but when Brett Ratner took over, he just chucked that out completely, and it's just, as I said, felt very, very much like a generic comic book movie. The stakes not feeling too high, despite them being high on paper. It's not the conclusion this trilogy deserved, as it was so consistent before this, and yeah, as I said, just feels very, very underwhelming. I know that was sound like a huge complaint, but in truth, this isn't a terrible movie. It's not really bad, it's just very, very disappointing, especially for such a consistent trilogy, which, yeah, should have been, on paper, capped off with a huge climax. But as I said, still a solid comic book movie. Wasn't amazing, wasn't going to change too much. I give X-Men The Last Stand a 6 out of 10. I guess if you're an X-Men fan, you're going to watch this anyway, but you're probably going to be disappointed. You know, disappointing with what they've done with some of the things, and even looking back to some things that they've undone following this movie, it just shows how poor everything is. Thank you for watching this review. If you want to see more of my X-Men reviews, you can click on that. It'll be up probably here, I think. As I mentioned, just going until the New Mutants comes out, which is bound to be at the end of the month now, so hopefully that doesn't change. I have a lot of videos lined up this month, so it's going to be a grind to get them out, so I'd really appreciate if you showed your support by chucking a like on this video, and if you haven't already, a subscription would be so appreciated, as I'm trying to reach 100 subscribers. But yeah, once again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.